Good evening, all over the world. You have tuned into Intellectual Radio and the Not by Chance Hour, where truth is light. We're talking about life, love, and lessons that affect you, your community, your city, your family. Thank you so much for tuning in. I am your host, Sergio Dixon, along with my beautiful wife, Miss Cynthia Dixon. And we are here tonight with a topic I think you'll find very, very interesting. Tonight we're talking about what's love got to do with it. What's love got to do with it? Listen, Cynthia, what is love? What does love have to do with life? That's what we're going to be talking about tonight. If you would like to call in and join our conversation, you can reach us at 708 223 8953. Now, listen, let me just take care of some business before we get into the conversation tonight. We are looking for sponsors. We are looking for sponsors who would love to who've been enjoying the information that we've been giving, the conversation we've been having. And if you would like to sponsor us, please, we would love for you to reach out to us at notbychancemen at gmail.com. Let me say that again, notbychancemen, M-I-N, at gmail.com. Listen, we're not asking for something and giving nothing. Our sponsors will have shout outs and their information will be read several times during our Not by Chance hour. So by sponsoring us, we will also be sponsoring you. Well, I can't say sponsored, but we'll also be giving your information during our talk time here on the show. Tonight, we're going to give a shout out to the National Youth Advocacy Program and their Mental Health Juvenile Justice Program. Juvenile Justice serves the Cook County area, and they offer therapy and case management services to youth between the ages of 8 and 18. If you would like any of this information, you can again contact us and be on the radio at 708 223 8953. If you're interested in the Mental Health Juvenile Justice Program, you can reach out via email to our email, notbychancemen at gmail.com. Now, off to the meat and potatoes. Tonight, again, we're talking about what's love got to do with it. Cynthia, can you tell us what love is?
My definition of love is, well, it's not a feeling for one. And I think a lot of us get distracted with the fact that we think love is a feeling. What happens when you don't feel too good about a person? Does the love disappear? And we live in a generation where love is based off our feelings, but love is truly an action word. And I believe love, I can't truly define what love is. I can give you a Webster's dictionary definition of what love is, but love is sacrificial. You sacrificing yourself for something. You can love people, you can love things. You know what I'm saying? But you're sacrificing yourself for that thing, no matter how you feel in that moment. Because, like I said, even in relationships or business or whatever the aspect is, you're not going to always feel good about those things. So we can't base love off and a feeling or emotion for the time being. We have to base love off of we have to measure love off of sacrificing. Just like God or Jesus sacrificed for us, that shows how much love he had for us. So we should base that love off of sacrifices. What you sacrifice and what people sacrifice for you.
That's interesting. What I just heard you say was love is not predicated on how we feel. That's powerful. And so often we get caught up on I love predicated because I feel like this. So because you made me feel a certain way, I can say I love you. But why? Why can we not predicate love? Why can love not be based on how I feel either at a certain point in time or how I feel about a particular person, place, or thing?
Emotions don't stay the same. No one's emotions stay the same, but maturity tells us or shows us how to regulate our emotions. But your emotions will never stay the same. You may wake up cranky one day. You may wake up sad one day. It's not always happy. You're not always in this state of being happy. And I heard someone say the word happy comes from happening. So whatever is happening in that moment, that's what's making you happy, but it's momentarily. So you can't base a person may make you happy for 6 months straight. In the beginning, it's always blissful, it's always enjoyable. The thrill is there. But what happens when the thrill is gone?
Mm.
Do you still love that person? Do you still get butterflies? Do you still have that same excitement? And like I said, we live in a generation where we base love off emotions and what's going on right now, or if that person makes me feel good, or if they continue to do what I want them to do, then I love them. And we also base love off history and time. And I think I love you when I'm really just attached to you because you've been around for so long. So we got a lot of areas to hit
Ooh,
with this love thing.
Jesus. You said a whole lot. I'm gonna try and recap everything, but I think about that. I ain't that old, y'all. So I think it was BB King who sang the song "The Thrill Is Gone." The thrill is gone, and it literally. You heard me try and get a little run in there. I think about an amusement park, right? And when you go to an amusement park for the first time, the ride is the most thrilling experience you ever had in your life. I remember the vertical velocity, the one that goes up and down and the U and you falling. I'm like, this is everything. Now I'm a little older and I rolled it a couple of times. That thrill ain't the same. It's still fun, it's still exciting, but the thrill ain't the same. And what I heard you say, love is action and commitment, right? It's committed rather than it is emotional. Because again, you said emotions change, right? And as you grow, what you once liked and what you once feel, it changes as you change, right? So if love was predicated upon feelings, what happens when your feelings change? Can love still say it's committed to loving? Right. But then I also heard you say emotions are temporary, right? But love endures. Emotions are caused by situation and by happenstance, right? But when you talk about enduring, love can't be predicated upon emotions because when something happens and your emotions change, which life teaches us will happen, right? Love has to endure the change of life. Emotions are fleeting and can change depending upon the circumstance, the maturity level, right? The stability and the consistentness of the situation, right? But when you're in love, right? Love endures. Love can't just say it's changing, so I'm gonna change too. No, when you love a thing, it endures whatever the change is. And as we grow, that's what maturity is. Maturity is change. It's a cat in the Bible by the name of David. He says, "When I was a child, I thought as a child, but when I became an adult, I put away those childish things." So literally, your desires, your wants, your behaviors, your thought processes all change as you mature and go through life, right? And so the way you loved as a child is completely different than the way you love as an adult. Because as a child, you're dependent upon those who take care of you, right? But as an adult, you're dependent upon taking care of yourself and taking care of your responsibility, right? So as you grow, love changes, but real love endures. Now, I ain't talking about endure no foolishness. I ain't talking about endure the wrong thing. Real love endures changes. Real love endures storms. Real love endures hard times, right? But I think we need to go back to the question of again, what is love? And um, and I'll give this back to you in a section, but in the English language, we have one definitive word that defines love, and that is love, right? But when you look in the Greek, there are several ways to describe love down to what it really is, right? And literally, there are eight Greek words that define love. I only want to deal with about four or five of them. You have philly or philios, right? And
Mhm.
that's brotherly, sisterly love. You have eros, and this is what a lot of people confuse love with, right? Everybody love their family, or should love their family, right? But eros means erotic or romantic form of love, right? Eros is not the complete thing or the complete terminology for the word love, right? But a lot of people get stuck at the eros. That's the feel good. That's the it makes me feel a certain type of way. It arouses me. It pleasures me. And people get stuck at that pleasure. But what happened again when the thrill is gone? What happened when the pleasure stops, right? Then you have storge. Storge is a materialistic type of love, right? The love that a man would have for his car, or the type of love a woman has for, her beauty products and that hair. That's storge, right? And you have all types of love, right? So I think my question, Cynthia, next would be, when you have all of these different types or forms of love, how do you know when true love exists?
I feel like those different forms of love are all rooted in God.
Mm.
So if God is love and you don't know God, you really don't know what love is. And we have a lot of people out here that's lusting. And we think lusting is all about sexual activities, or I gotta look at you in a sexual way for me to lust after something. If it's not coming from a pure place, if you do not know how to love purely and correctly, you are lusting after of a thing. Lust is nothing but a perverted version of love. Main is twisted out of its natural form. So that's my answer to, if we do not know and we are not rooted in the creator of love, the one that is love, then we will never know what true love is. Also, if we do not love ourselves, it's impossible to love somebody else, and it's also impossible for us to love ourselves, or allow love to come in or accept love, because we don't love ourselves. So I think we need to start there. You can't really tell a person what love is. I can tell you what I think love is for me, but that's everybody's personal journey to understand what looks like with them, or what love is for them. So I feel like we just need to tap into source. And once you figure out who God is, and once you understand how he sacrificed for you and what he sacrificed for you, then you now know the true meaning of love. Now you know how much value you have to him, and now you know the value that he has in you and what he placed inside of you. Now you see how valuable you are. Now you begin to love yourself more. Now everything, once your cup is filled, it run over. Now you can spread the love. But a lot of us don't know how to love. We don't know what love is. We don't know where love originated. We don't know how to love ourselves, and we most definitely don't know how to love nobody else.
Wow. You said something so important. You said God is love. And literally in First John 4 and 8, it says, whoever does not love does not know God, because God is love. Additionally, First John 4 and 16 reinforces this truth. It says, and so we know and rely on the love of God that he has for us, for God is love. Whoever lives in love lives in God and God in them. You said so many key things, right? We didn't talk about this, but agape is the Greek word for love, and it means unconditional, without boundaries, completely selfless, without predications, and without stipulations. I love you unconditionally, authentically, selflessly. Selfishness is subtracted from agape love, and this is the love that God has toward us, right? But you said something else that's so key and so important. You said you can't really love somebody else until you know what love is and until you love yourself. Callers, I said callers, listeners, I want you to call in. I want you to answer this question. What is love and why is it important to love yourself? 708-223-8953. What is love and why is it important to love yourself first? In Black culture, we are taught how to do so many different things, But who can honestly say, I was taught how to properly love myself? The greatest commandment is to love thy God with all thy heart, thy mind, and thy soul. And the second is like unto the first, love your neighbor as yourself. But what about people who don't love themselves? What about low self esteem? What about depression? What about chronic illness that prevents you from seeing yourself even worthy of loving yourself? I spent a long time of my life doing, participating, being in something that was completely opposite of what was on the inside of Sergio, right? And that's because I didn't love myself. I did not know how to love. Matter of fact, let's do it like this. Cynthia, let me answer this question for me. When was the last time you stopped and asked yourself, how do you feel? When was the last time you checked in with yourself and say, you know what? I feel this or that.
I check in with myself a lot,
Mhm.
a lot. And many things I don't tolerate, and I don't allow myself to go too far away from me. We got a lot of people out here losing themselves, trying they wait to the last minute to cater to themselves, cater to their mental, cater to their emotions. They put their themselves last, and it's a lot of people out here like that. But by me having that experience in the past, I check on myself a lot. Like I have a long time, and I do an evaluation with myself to make sure I never get into that place again. And I want to flip this to unhealthy relationships. So we know what love is. Like he said, you can chime in and tell us what your thoughts is of love. But I hope y'all heard something that the light bulb got a little brighter with love. You got to love yourself after you get into God's grace and the knowledge of who God is. Then the work will start. But this is how we get into these toxic and unhealthy connections. And when you are blind and ignorant, and people think that ignorant is a terrible word, when in reality, it's a word that expresses you just have not come into knowledge of something. So even if they call you if is ignorant in the Bible, I know he say perverse people, which are twisted minded people. I don't know if ignorant is in the Bible, but the word ignorant is not as well. Somebody can use it in a malicious way, but ignorance is literally not having the knowledge of something. And when we don't have the knowledge of love and we don't have the knowledge of healthy connections, we start to basically eat from any table, connect with any source, connect with any person. And that's how love is so tainted, especially right well lust. The view of love is so tainted because we have been operating out of a spirit of ignorance and out of a spirit of lust for so long. And the Bible tells us that love covers a multitude of sin. So if you are connected with anyone that's into the exposing of your sin, um, exposing your vulnerable areas, always tearing you down, not leading you to a place of light, you are in an unhealthy, ungodly relationship, connection, companionship. Like he said, is he touched bases on 4 different forms of love. Meaning this love comes from God. It's okay to love your friend.
Mhm.
It's okay to have major love for your friend. It's okay to love on your family. These things are okay. God created those things. But the enemy comes in, and we talk about this all the time on the show. The enemy comes in to pervert everything that God establishes. So he will send you friends that are not of God, and the connection is ungodly. You can't experience an authentic love from something that is not of God. Only God has that pure and genuine love. So some connections we really need to put an end to, because the foundation of it is not pure. The foundation of it. And some family relationships will drain you as well. And yes, you supposed to love everybody, if we gonna be honest. You supposed to have love for everyone. But if the source and the foundation of it is not of God and is not pure, it will never last. You will never grow in that situation. You will never be fulfilled. You will never have peace. You want to add something to that?
So I'll answer the question that you asked. The word ignorant, you want both the word and the concept are mentioned in the Bible, right? Hosea 4:6, my people perish or are destroyed for the lack of knowledge. Lack of knowledge means ignorance, right? And that's literally, a lot of people use ignorant as a bad word, right? But it simply means lacking knowledge or understanding, right? Now, if you remain ignorant, it is bad. And remaining ignorant means you reject knowledge, information, understanding, right? That sense of ignorance is very bad because it means literally you're rejecting truth and therefore living in ignorance. To be ignorant or not know something is not necessarily a bad thing. Another place, Acts 17:30. In the past, God overlooked such ignorance, but now he commands all people everywhere to repent. The word repent means ask for forgiveness. It means return, refrain from the bad ways into the good, right? And so when God talks to us on the subject of ignorance, he literally tells us that ignorance is irresponsible. And our responsibility as his children are to turn away from a lack of knowledge concerning truth and law. Truth and law, right? Love abides in law and love abides in truth. Where dishonesty, where darkness, where lies are present, truth is absent. Therefore, love is absent because love only operates in truth, right? While ignorance can be excused to some extent, especially before knowing God, the Bible teaches us that we overcome ignorance through learning, repentance, and growth. Everybody told a lie. Let's just tell the truth. You know, um, Mama come in the kitchen and ask her kid why he chewing. Did you eat the cookies before dinner? And I told you not to. No, Mama, I'm just chewing some gum. Knowing you ate a cookie, right? We know how to lie. You understand what I'm saying? And though lying is bad, there's an extent to it, right? But we don't remain liars, right? And that's the difference between truth and ignorance, right? When you remain in the thing, right, you're rejecting truth, therefore love is absent. And when you talk about relationships, I think, I ain't gonna say we've all been there, but there comes a point where we were manipulative or we lied to get with or get what we wanted from a person, either to get with that person or get what we wanted from or out of that person, right? That's not love and it's not truth, right? But so often people are broken, unhealed, unlearned, and unloving of themselves, therefore susceptible. Therefore, they can't discern. They can't see when somebody's lying. They can't see when someone's trying to deceive them to get something out of them. And this is why self love is so important. Because if you don't love yourself, you can never readily offer a person what you haven't given yourself. Let me tell you something my wife told me. Growing up, I come from a very tumultuous past, right? In my household was drugs, was abuse, etc. Right, and I had a very difficult relationship with my mother. And my wife said, "You can never love me if you don't love your mama." And at first, my first response and react, but you don't know what happened. You don't know what was done to me. You don't know this and that. Listen, you can never love me if you don't love, because your mama is the one who took care of you, who raised you, who fed you, who did all of these things, right? And literally, me and my wife have been together going on 3 years. We've been married 1 year and 2 months. Praise the Lord. And literally, my relationship with my grandmother who is my mother, because my real mother's deceased. She was shot and killed. Rest in peace, Shataka Miel Roebuck. But just the same, me and my grandmother's relationship is better than it's ever been in my life. I mean, in my life. And from the, I was in, I'm gonna end here because I can get talking. But watch, I was in a job interview, right? And I literally, a coping mechanism of mine for the stuff that happened to me when I was young is I would disregard my grandmother. I literally would paint this evil picture of her because I was so mad at her. Was she evil? Absolutely not. But because I was mad, and the way I cope with my anger because I did not heal. Remember, we talked about that last week, coping versus healing. So the way I coped as opposed to healing was I used to talk about her in a very negative light. And a Caucasian fella, he said to me, listen, he said, Sergio, and he was very seasoned. So this was wisdom more than it was, being professional and talking about the job. He was hiring me. He was the CEO. He said, Sergio, no matter what happened to you and what she did to you, she created the man that's sitting in front of me today. And when I say that slapped me upside the head, here I am thinking I'm whatever I am, and I'm holding a grudge when I am who I am because God used this woman and the situation of my upbringing to create me and perpetuate me into being the man that I am today, right? So when you don't love yourself and you're stuck in hurt, you're stuck in coping mechanism, you're stuck in what happened to you and how bad it was, right? You cannot offer love to yourself nor love to somebody else, which is why toxicity exists so much in relationships today, right? As a man, I don't understand a man who beats on a woman or a woman who allows it, right? But because we can understand, we actually just said it, right? So my preference and my opinion as a man is another man should never put his hands on a woman, and a woman should never accept that from a man, from anybody for that fact, right? So, man or woman, it shouldn't happen, right? But when a person don't love themselves, they'll endure toxicity, they'll endure bad and excuse make an excuse for it. Hello, that's what toxicity is. Making an excuse for what's wrong when as opposed to fixing what's wrong, healing what's wrong, right? So when we talking about love, one of my greatest takeaways from what you just said, Cynthia, is you got to love yourself. And when you love yourself, your relationships will reflect healthy. And that's not just intimate relationships, that's business relationships, that's friendships, that's parentships, that's any ship that you own that involves a relation with another even let's take people out of it. As a professional, you got to love yourself because your business deals are predicated on how much you love yourself. Because you don't want to just take anything and say, okay, because the opportunity arose, let me jump on ship. Not at all. And when you love yourself and are thinking straight and affording yourself the greatest capacity to live and grow right through love, then every decision you make is grounded. It's not every decision is correct, but every decision is grounded in a good place. I hope that makes sense, Ian. What you think?
I want to piggyback off toxicity and relationships. Many times, toxic behaviors are passed down. So you have people that have grown up in homes where abuse was taking place. So now they mistaken toxicity as love, or this is a true companion. And that goes on a lot in our community. So that's why we see now that domestic violence is really truly at its highest rates because of people our age or kids that's coming up under us saw us get beat on. So they thought it was okay. And we know with every generation it gets worse. We us growing up, we saw our parents or cousins, aunts, or something like that getting hit on or beat on or disrespected, and now it becomes natural. So we live in a world where toxicity is natural. It's a natural behavior, it's a natural response, and that's because seeds of love, and like I said, love is not just a feeling, it's an action. And many people have grown up without seeing healthy love presented to them starting at home. Then you go outside, you see unhealthy situations. So my question, we gonna get off the topic of love because, well, love is kind of still rooted in this, but I want to speak about relationships. What is a healthy relationship to you, and what is an unhealthy relationship to you?
Cynthia, let me jump in. Listeners, we got a couple of questions on the table. Call in at 708-223-8953. What is a healthy relationship? What is love? What is self love? Chime in on the conversation. We want to hear from you and we want to make this a dialogue. So, the question Cian just put on the table. Say your questions again, Cian.
What does a healthy relationship looks like,
My God.
and what is a unhealthy relationship looks like? Like, I was asking you though.
Oh, you was asking me? Lord have mercy. I don't think they want
Yeah.
my. Listen, an unhealthy relationship will cause you, and this is the best way I can define it, to live beneath your privilege. Everything, when you're in an unhealthy, intimate relationship, meaning the person you lay next to, whether it be legal or illegal, that means married or unmarried, right? When you're in an unhealthy relationship, it'll cause your whole world to reflect dysfunction, to reflect sickness, to reflect toxicity. Listen, um, how can I say this without giving out too much information? I was in an unhealthy relationship and I live what I call beneath my privilege. And I ain't putting the blame on nobody except myself. My friendship, because of my intimate relationship, right? My friendships were bad. My productivity was bad. I was stagnant. I made terrible decisions. I broke hearts. I was a serial cheater. I was a liar and a manipulator, right? Now, to save face, it takes two. So never is one person responsible for an unhealthy relationship. Because at any given point, you can get up and leave at any given point, right? So it takes two to tango, right? But when you don't love yourself, you are susceptible to an unhealthy relationship. In other words, because I'm not loving on myself and living and desiring to live my best life, I'll take anything. I'll participate in anything. My habits are reflected, my work ethic, everything about me will reflect it, right? And so in my maturity and now being with the right person, with the love of my life, with the woman who God has created for me, my life has changed. My wife, one of the first words my wife said to me was, "You need love." I'll never forget that. And at the time, I'm literally broken. Oh my God. You ever seen something look good and it was broke? I recently just bought something and I mean, I thought this was such the best purchase I've made in my life. And I opened it and a piece of it was broken, right? On the outside, you look a certain way, you present a certain let's be real. I'm a versatile guy. I'm a smart guy, right? So I can present myself to whatever demographic I'm in front of. I can sound good, I can walk the walk, I can talk all these things, right? But on the inside, you broken. Now you can't fool that. You can fool somebody sometime, but you can't fool everybody all the time. So some folks saw me, right, and and when I met you, Cynthia, literally your first words were, "You need love." Not knowing how to love myself, not knowing how to love my children properly, and it reflected in every area of my life, right? So when we talk about unhealthy relationships, we're talking about an unhealthy individual because a healthy individual is not going to now watch this. Sergio, that don't sound right. You said your wife met you when you was broken. Yes, but she saw me past my brokenness. And that's how you know somebody is getting good. That's how you know somebody is for you because they'll see you past where you are. And when they speak to you, they won't speak to you right now. They'll speak to where you're going and who you're supposed to be. My wife said, "You need love." And then the next thing she told me was, "You better than this." Wait. What you mean? Because you couldn't tell me I didn't know how to be a gentleman. You couldn't tell me I didn't know how to treat a woman. You could not tell me that I didn't know how to do the do. You understand? Whatever my do was, I thought I did it well until I got with a real woman. Until I got with a woman who say, "That's all right, but it ain't what it could be." And the first thing you I almost said, who you talking to? Do you know I'm light skinned with good hair, right? You know I sing, right? You know I got all these good factors about me. That ain't nothing. That ain't nothing. And see, real love will tell you the truth. Let me tell you something I learned about truth messing around with my wife. Truth don't feel good, especially when it's consistent. Because truth makes you get yourself together. And love is true. Remember, we said love and darkness or love and lies can't reside with each other, right? So the truth, even when you don't like it, see, you understand what I'm saying? Because I'm getting a little personal and it's funny to me. But when we talk about a bad relationship, right, a toxic relationship, we're talking about individuals, and it takes two. And notice I'm being very mature. We ain't placing the blame nowhere else but on self, right? When two people get together and neither of them are loving themselves properly, their world reflects it, right? So when we talk about real love, we're talking about truth that grows you, truth that matures you, truth that says this is what you need, truth that says this is where you are and it ain't all that good. And if you want to get good, then you need to do it this way. And when I met my wife, and we're not just talking about relationships, intimate relationships, husband and wife, right? We're talking about life. When you come across people who are genuine enough to consistently tell you the truth, not lie to you because y'all friends now, so I don't want to hurt your feelings. I'm talking about even when we friends, even when we lovers, even when we connected, even when we in business together, I'm going to tell you the truth. Because the truth, as Grandma would say, will set you free. The truth will cause you to grow. The truth will remove stagnation. Love is truth.
I want to chime in and speak on something. We have to stop, and I'm speaking to women specifically. We have to stop measuring our strength based off on how much we can take in a relationship or in a friendship. And I noticed that about our community. I can't speak for nobody else. I'm Black. So I noticed this in our community that a woman has to go through hell and back before a man can put a ring on it, before a man sees her true value. Oh, you'd have been through everything with me. You done took me back time after time after I cheated. You done had many, many kids by me and I haven't married you yet. You done held me down while I was in jail. You done held my drugs in your house for all of these years. Like, it's always terrible things. And as women, we look at those things as an accomplishment. I've been with a man for 10 years or 15 years or 20 years. He never married me, but he had me out here doing foolish wife duties. It wasn't even a divine wife. He has you out here doing foolish wife duties. And now when he feel that he's done playing the field or he's done doing this and he's done doing that, now after he done took the best years of your life, you think you won. And we also have people around us. Oh, you're a strong woman if you dealt with that and you still here. No, you're a strong woman when you leave. You will never be strong. You will never have peace. You will never have the amount of strength that God created or be the woman that God created you to be if you stay in something that's constantly pulling from you. You will never be the fullness of, you will never meet the requirements. You will never have the attributes or any of that God created for you if you continue to be in something that's unhealthy. Your strength is walking away. Your strength is allowing God to make you whole again. You can be out here with a person because none of us want to be by ourselves, and that's the problem. Codependency. When you don't love yourself, when you don't receive or accept the love of God. I can't say receive because God loves all of us. We just have to open up and receive it. If you don't accept the love of God or any of that, you won't understand how thriving feels. We be in relationships and we only surviving. You in survival mode. We gonna make it through another day. You argue every day. You don't have a peace of mind. It's always chaotic. You always crying. You always hurt. You always beat up. Your heart is always broken. You in survival mode. It's a difference from surviving and actually thriving.
Absolutely.
Married people, you can be married for 30 years. If he's still cheating, if he's cheated on you the entire 30 years, you gotta worry. You still checking phone and you 50. You still arguing with other women. You still degrading yourself, but because you got the history or you got the numbers behind you, you think that gives you some type of what how can I say this? It gives you some type of authority to pour into others when your marriage is not hot. Your marriage is unstable. Your marriage is toxic. And no woman in their right mind, no healthy woman is going to look at you as if you are strong when you still with a man that has disrespected you and disregarded you for 30 something years. You still with him. But we supposed to look at you as if you have strength. No, when you're able to come to us and tell us, I was with this man, I loved him, he took care of me, he did everything for me, but he didn't value me, so I walked away. Now I'm looking at you like you hold some type of weight and authority, because that's how I got with my husband. And what he just said is very much me. It was kind of watered down a little bit, but it's very much me. Before I got with him, I was in a terrible toxic relationship. I think I had multiple toxic relationships. Nothing ever worked out. And it was the last time that something took place and I took accountability as a woman. First of all, as a woman of God and knowing who God created me to be and knowing how God felt about me, now I started to feel that same way about myself. Now I have to take accountability. What is wrong with you for constantly choosing people like this? Why you keep settling for people like this? So I told God, I'm the problem. It's me. Yeah, you may be connected to someone that's terrible, toxic, immature, whatever it may be. But the key word is you connected to them. And it takes all you got to do is take a step away to disconnect from them. So it's something about you that's making these connections, and it's something about you that's staying in these connections. So I told God, keep me by myself for a while. And the next man, he has to be seeking you in order to find me. You're not gonna find me in your natural state. You're not gonna find me in a toxic state. I don't care about the residue because that was all that was on my husband. It was residue. It's a process to come out of habits that you've been in for a long time. But if it's truly from God, that thing won't go on for far too long.
That's good. Thank you for that, and I thank you for giving that message to our sisters. Um, I thought I was watering you up, my love, but I was trying to paint the picture without being too personal. But real love, uh, we've said this before, and it's so powerful. Dirt has no side. Dirt does not choose good or evil. Dirt does with what it's ordained, what it's purposed to do, and that's grow seeds. The seeds that are in the dirt determine what grows. And when you use the word residue, um, God has created me to be who I am, right? But it took real love. And so by no means do we take away God's will and his ordinance and his sovereignty. God sent me my wife and thus sent me real love. And real love changed me and made me better or perpetuated my growth and maturity, right? And like she just said, it's the same thing for men. Women are often viewed to be strong because of what they endure. And culture teaches men something similar. The more you have, the more notches you have, et cetera, et cetera. As a man who is or was a as a man who is delivered and was a serial cheater, everyone you connect yourself with takes from you, especially when you go into, better yet, I don't like the word especially, how much more so when you go into a situation knowing this is a momentary or temporary fix. So how much more are you broken to make that decision that I'm not important enough, I'm not good enough to connect with one person who can love me unconditionally? But because I'm broken and I'm fragmented, I'll now dip here, I'll dip there, I'll stick here, and I'll stick there, right? And as men, culture perpetuates this persona. You know, men can be hoes and they not looked down upon, right? But the truth of the matter, a man is just, if we just gonna be honest, is usually more broken than a woman when he is a hoe, when he is connecting with various, and the thing about that, you can't love yourself if you spread yourself thin, because it takes away from your emotions, it takes away from your stamina, it takes away from your cognitive good thinking processes, because you can't focus fully on the right thing when you got so many things to try and juggle and balance, right? So as she just gave this message to women, strong is not love. Strong is actually a lack of love. A lack, I endured all this, I did all this for the wrong one. Now, when you find the right one, what do you have left to give? But the same, the very same is for the men. You know, we divide ourselves between so much and we become small. We're not enlarged because we're giving pieces of ourselves away to different. But now we're dealing with struggles and spirits that are not our own, and we already broken, right? So love, through my own life, through my own story, through God gracing me and blessing me with the right woman, what I've learned is love pulls and puts together the pieces. And that's the love of God, the unconditional, the unpredicated, the unprecedented, the unselfish love of God in a person for the right person. Um,
I want
Go
to
ahead.
chime in real quick before we get off. I will really encourage you to measure your relationships. What does measure mean? Judge. Now is the time for you to judge your connections, judge your relationships, whether it's an intimate relationship, friendship, family members, whatever it is, whatever is hindering you from growing and being whole, it's time to cut the cords, because toxicity is not normal and we really need to get that out of our minds. Toxicity is not normal, is not healthy, is not good. If you have children, you really doing them a disservice with allowing them to be around that and experience that. In the Bible, it talks about Judas and Peter. And Peter denied Jesus in the moment, probably from fear or whatever it was. But Judas betrayed Jesus. Peter got restored, Judas died. It's something different about betrayal. It's a deceptive spirit that operates in betrayal. This is something that is brewed up, it comes from the heart. So when you have people around you that are constantly betraying you, constantly exposing you to things that may kill you, exposing you to things that may hinder you. When you have people exposing you to these things, they do not love you. Love covers, it does not expose. That's for one. So we need to know which people in our lives, what's in jobs, whatever it is, what in our lives is reciprocating rather than taking from us. What in our lives are adding to versus subtracting. What in our lives are building us up versus breaking us down. That's where you measure love, not how a person makes you feel in that moment. Because you can't be loyal. Somebody told me years ago, don't allow your loyalty to be lethal. We can be loyal to things that are not good for us. So our loyalty will have us stuck in something, and death can be the end of that thing. So really measure your relationships, judge them. Do not be afraid to walk away. I don't care how many years you've been friends. If all y'all do is argue and expose each other and talk about each other behind your back, it's time to literally cut the cords. You have to mature. You have to mature. And then you may have some relationships that y'all holding grudges when the problem was this small and can be rectified. Ask God to lead you. First of all, get a relationship with God. Then allow God to introduce you to the new you, because you cannot get in his presence and be the same.
One of our listeners said something that ties into exactly what you said. Love does not expose, but love does tell the truth. One of our listeners, Sister Lucretia, she said we tend to see the speck that is in our brother's eye, but do not notice the log that's in our own eye. That's scripture, and thank you so much for that comment. And what that means is my job is not to expose you, especially if I love you, because if I expose you, those who are watching, expecting us to fail, working off of our dirt and our toxicity, being entertained by it, they gonna take exposure and run with it, run it in the ground, run it in the dirt. You understand what I'm saying? But love will pull you to the side, and love will tell you the truth. Hey, you messed up. As grandma would say, your slip is showing, right? Um,
But
whatever
he who
term.
are spiritual restore such a one.
Uh-huh. In the spirit of
So there should
meekness.
be restoration in
Absolutely.
your truth. You should never tell a truth to shame somebody or because you got a view. If your truth is not restoring someone,
Hmm.
then you're operating in a different type of spirit, because restoration should always come
From truth.
from truth. It should always come. But you want to
Absolutely. And
close us
so you
out?
said, and don't participate in the unfruitful works of darkness, but instead even expose them. And in expose, I believe it means tell them the truth, but in love. If your truth, my wife said, you're living beneath your privilege. This ain't you. So literally, she sowed a seed into me that said, you got to grow. Because that's what that means. If you're not living in your privilege, that means whatever you're living in is beneath where you're supposed to be. So the truth, I love how you just define that. The truth restores, the truth matures, the truth builds.
Builds.
And what is truth? Truth is love. So what's love got to do with it? Everything. Truth. And I think that's the whole point of today's little Easter speech is that truth is love. Love tells the truth, and then it restores in the process. So love brings you, the Bible says we are fearfully and wonderfully made. And so when you're operating in the unconditional, the agape, the love of God, let me tell you what I just learned literally in 2024. I thought I knew what love was and had a full good, I can tell you the Greek, I can tell you a little Hebrew about what love, all those things, right? But the greatest love that we can have for another person is to pursue God's heart for them. I
Good.
like you. You make me feel good. My wife is the prettiest woman on this earth, right? All those, and I mean, she fine, fine. But you know, when you double up on the word, you mean it. She fine, fine, babe. You understand? But listen, I lost my thought, Lord.
No sense.
But listen, here we go. Love will restore you. This is where I was going. We are fearfully and wonderfully made. Real love restores you to the best version of you, whether it be in truth, whether however real love is given, it's unconditional and it restores, it perpetuates, it pushes, it helps you become the best version of you. So when Cynthia said it's time to evaluate our relationships, right? It's time to evaluate what type of love we're dealing with. Is it toxic? Is it eros? Is it just pleasure? Is it love that stops at brother and sister? Or is it unconditional?
Also, what type of love we're giving ourselves, because many of us are betraying ourselves with accepting betrayal and accepting toxicity. So, yeah.
This was so good. I hope you all, our listeners, I hope you enjoyed the conversation. Listen, tell somebody that on Tuesday evenings at 6 p.m., we're moving to 6 p.m., everybody. At 6 p.m., the Not by Chance Truth Hour is on. And they talking about issues of life, of family, of love that concern you, your family, your community, and the world in which you live in. We thank you so much for tuning in and hanging out with us. We pray that we've said something that encourages your heart and motivates your mind. What's love got to do with it? What's the answer to that? Truth and growth and maturity. Thanks for hanging out with us. I am Sergio Dixon. This is my wonderful wife, Cynthia Dixon. and God bless you.